What does it mean to set boundaries, and why don't we set boundaries, and why is setting boundaries important? If you want to know what I have to say about this subject, then keep watching, because I'm going to talk about that right now. Hey everyone, my name is Danielle. Welcome to my channel if you're new, and welcome back if you're returning. Today I want to talk to you all about setting boundaries. Why we don't set boundaries, why we should, and how to start doing that if you don't know how to do that, or if maybe you're uncomfortable at the thought of starting to try and set some boundaries in your life with the people that are in your life. Now, I have talked about setting boundaries in different videos on my channel before in different contexts. I did a video series on communication. I will link that below if you haven't seen it, and I will put it above. I talked about setting boundaries in that series in my last video when I talked about dealing with conflict in communication within relationships. I also talked about setting boundaries as it relates to dealing with domestic violence in my domestic violence series that I also did on my channel a few months back, and I will link that below and above if you haven't seen that as well. But today I want to talk to you about setting boundaries more generally in your relationships, in your life, and why that's important, how to do that, and I want to explore some reasons why maybe we struggle with that or maybe we don't do that. Now, before I get into the content that I want to share with you today, I do want to throw a disclaimer out there. I am not a medical doctor. I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. You guys know that. But I want to just share that with you and let you know that. I want to let you know that you need to obviously make your own decisions. You need to make your own determinations. You need to decide what's right for you. And maybe it would be right and appropriate for you to seek some counseling from a professional counselor. Maybe it would be right for you to seek medical attention or help if you decide that that's something that you need. I think that that's great. You guys know how I feel about counseling. I've done a lot of it in my past. I think it is really wonderful. I think it is really helpful. And I think it really is the sign of a really strong and healthy emotional person to realize and recognize that this is beneficial, that this is something that they might need, and to go ahead and seek the help and the guidance that they need at that time. So I think it is a really good thing to do. So the things I'm going to share with you are my opinions and just based on my own personal life experiences and some things that I've learned and some things that I'm going to implement and do in my own life that I think are going to be really beneficial for me personally. So take from this video what you want and leave on the table what you don't find beneficial or helpful. That's totally fine with me. But this is just my opportunity to share some thoughts and feelings that I have with you. So let's first of all talk about why we struggle with setting boundaries and why we don't set boundaries. Now, the first reason I think that we really don't set boundaries, or we might struggle with this, is truly because we don't know who we truly are and we don't know what we're about. I did a video series a while back on goals, and I talked about the importance of setting your personal mission and goal statement and really determining and deciding who you are and what you want your life to be about. That is so important on so many different levels. If you haven't watched that video series, I will link it below and above. I think it is definitely worth checking out. But if we don't know who we are or what we're about or what we want our life to be about, then how can we set boundaries and determine how we want other people to respond to us, how we want to be treated, when we don't even know who we are? I'll give you an example. My personal mission statement and my vision for my life is that I really aspire to help people become the best versions of themselves they can be, physically, emotionally, and mentally, in every facet that I can, in the best way possible. And that is my personal mission statement. That's what I'm all about, and that's what I aspire to do. Now, knowing that that's what I'm aspiring to do and what my life's work is about, it's really important to me to be as mentally, emotionally, and physically healthy as I can be, and to continue to strive for that on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual, and lifelong basis, because I know that I can't carry out my life mission and what my personal mission statement is unless I am the epitome of what I'm trying to help others be. And so personally for me, that's really important, and I really do try to find ways and tools and things to do to really help me really develop myself and really take care of myself in such a way that I can really live out my personal mission statement. So I think really determining who you are as a person, what your personal mission statement is, what your core values are, is really important in helping you learn to set boundaries and deciding what boundaries you want to set for yourself. Remember that we're all different people. We come from all different backgrounds. We have all different expectations, and we all have different tolerances. And what I mean by that is that something that would be a boundary for me might not be a boundary for somebody else. Let me give you an example. I know people in my personal life that absolutely really struggle and really cannot tolerate when people are late. Now, I don't like it when people are late. I personally don't like being late myself, but that's not such a boundary for me that I absolutely have to have people be on time all the time, unless it's a situation where it happens continuously all the time with the same person and someone's really, really late. Well, then it would be a situation where I would talk to them because I wouldn't like it, but that's not a hard and fast boundary for me, where it might be for somebody else. Now, as an example for me, a boundary that I have in place for myself is that it's really important to me that I get enough sleep, and it's also really important to me that I really take care of myself and have certain self-care things set up on a weekly, monthly basis that make me feel good physically, emotionally, and mentally, because I know that I'll be able to function better if I do these certain things. One of those things is a manicure. Another one of those things are massages. Another one of those things for me is making sure that I really keep track and I am on a regular exercise routine and I have a really consistent sleep-wake cycle. So those are some things that are boundaries for me that are really important. So for example, I will not schedule other appointments when I know I'm going to have a manicure appointment, or I will make sure that I make enough time in my schedule to get a massage when I'm feeling tense or tight, or I will make sure that I make time in my schedule to exercise adequately and get enough sleep, and I will turn off my phone at a certain time of night because I've determined that I don't want to be barraged by text or talk on the phone because I need to get my sleep. So those are some boundaries for me. Now, those things might not be as important to somebody else that maybe doesn't need as much sleep as me, or maybe doesn't place as high of a value on self-care as I do, but I just know what I need to feel and be at my very best physically, emotionally, and mentally, and I really try to take that into consideration and make sure I make that part of my weekly, monthly, annual routine because it's important to me so that I can be at my very best. So everybody's going to set different boundaries based on their lifestyle, who they are, what's important to them, and that's fine. Recognize that not all of our boundaries are going to be the same, but nonetheless, it's really important to have them. Now, I really believe, and I've said this before in my channel, I really believe that we train people how to treat us. So oftentimes, if we're getting treated in a way that we don't like or that we don't appreciate or that doesn't make us feel good, it's because we haven't set a boundary there. It's because we haven't spoken up for ourselves. It's because we haven't said, I don't like this, I'm not comfortable with this, I don't want to engage in this, and I'm not going to do this. Now, a lot of times that can be really uncomfortable, especially if you are a people pleaser. I can tell you from experience, I am a people pleaser. I also do struggle with codependent tendencies. So I tend to want to always fix problems, fix people, make things better all the time, but you have to realize that sometimes certain things are not your responsibility. Certain things are not things that you can change. Certain things are the responsibility of other people around you, and they're not for you to control or manage or change. Those particular things are up to the other people, not up to you, and that can be a really hard pill to swallow if you are a more controlling person or you have codependent tendencies. So once we've determined our personal mission statement, what our core values are, what boundaries we want to set, what's important to us, then we can start setting our boundaries. And I really recommend that you get a piece of paper and a pen and you sit down when you have some time and write some of these things down. You're going to write down your personal mission statement, you're going to write down your core values, you're going to write down what your emotional, physical, and mental needs are, what you want your life to look like, what you want yourself to look like from a standpoint of physically, emotionally, and mentally, and that will help you determine what kind of boundaries you want to set. Maybe it's a boundary that you need to tell your boss that you're not going to work late every single night of the week. Maybe you're only going to work late twice a week because you want to go home and eat dinner with your family. Maybe it's a boundary that you're going to tell a family member that always asks you for help all the time when it's not convenient for you, that you can't continue to help them out. Maybe it's a boundary that you need to start telling your grown children that you're helping out financially, that they need to get a job and start taking some financial responsibility for their own lives. So you can start to really visualize and see what kind of boundaries you want to set in your life and why that's important to you. And I think it's really important to think through why those boundaries are important to you, not just what they're going to be, because when you determine why those particular boundaries are important to you, then you're going to be more likely to set them and hold on to them and really enforce them, rather than just setting them without realizing and understanding why they're so important to you. Now, I will tell you that when you start to set boundaries, especially if you never have, or especially if you've got narcissistic people in your life, toxic people in your life, or people people in your life that are typically takers, and you're probably the person that is the giver in the relationship, this is going to be hard, and be prepared to lose some relationships over this. That could happen, but just know that in an effort to be the healthiest version of yourself, physically, emotionally, and mentally, that sometimes losing relationships is a blessing, not a curse. So at least for me, I'm in a phase of my life where I want my life to be as peaceful and drama-free as absolutely possible, and I want to be my own best advocate. I understand for myself personally that I'm responsible to advocate for my own needs. Nobody else is really going to do it for me. I have to decide what's priority to me and what's important to me, and I have to advocate for that. And one of the things that is really important to me is sustaining my mental health and my emotional health, and if there's any sort of drama or any sort of situations that really get in the way of that, then those are situations that I'm really not going to have in my life, and I'm totally fine to distance myself from those people or situations that might get in the way of me being emotionally or mentally healthy. And sometimes we have to look at our lives, we have to look at the people in our lives, and we have to make some of those hard decisions. Understand when you start to set boundaries, though, that people might respond negatively. You might get some pushback, and a lot of times people that are narcissistic, or they're takers, or they're people that will continue to push you, they will continue to push back. They might try and make you feel guilty. Trying to make someone feel guilty is a classic way of somebody in your life not respecting your boundaries. The best way to handle this when you're trying to set boundaries with someone is not to give excuses, not to give reasons why you don't want to do something, or you can't do something, or you're not going to tolerate certain types of behaviors. You're just going to say, I'm not going to tolerate this, I don't want to do this, I can't do this, I'd really like to help you, but I can't. Maybe you really want to spend family time, maybe you want to do something else, maybe you're tired, maybe you need to indulge yourself in some self-care to take care of yourself. For whatever the reason, it doesn't really matter, because it's your decision to make, and it's up to you to decide what is best for you at the time and what you want to do. And sometimes I think we often end up doing things that we actually don't even want to do because we don't know how to say no, because we're too much of a people pleaser, and we're afraid that people won't like us, we're afraid of the pushback we're going to get, we're afraid that people will be mad at us. So we end up doing all these things that don't really serve us, that we don't really want to do, or that we really shouldn't do because we're too tired, we don't have the time, we don't have the energy, and then we end up feeling angry, we end up feeling resentful, we end up feeling exhausted all the time, and it's not helpful, and it's not emotionally, mentally, or physically healthy. I'll give you an example. Years ago, I was involved in a church, and this is not by any means the church's fault. This was my own doing, but I got really, really involved. So I was in the choir, I was ushering, I was serving in other ways. So basically, every single Sunday, I was at church from 7:30 in the morning till like 1 in the afternoon, and then I was back at church at 5:30 p.m. for choir practice, and I was at church through like 9 o'clock at night. And so Sundays just became really long days for me. I ended up feeling really burnt out, and people in the church kept asking me to help out, to volunteer, to do different things, and I would always say yes because I didn't want to let people down, and I really wanted to serve, and I really wanted to be involved. But over the course of time, I really ended up getting so burnt out that I left that church and I went to another church, and I ended up just wanting to sit in the back and just be in worship and not do anything else, because I really needed that. And I talked to the pastor of the new church that I started going to, and I told him that. I said, I just need a time to be fed and not volunteer because I'm burned out. And burnout is a real thing that happens to a lot of us, and I think it happens more frequently and with more severity to people that really struggle with setting boundaries, because we just really end up taking on way too much and doing things that we really don't want to do. And you know what? If you set a boundary and say no to something that you don't want to do, or you say no to someone who's treating you in a way that you don't want to be treated, you don't have to give an explanation. You can simply say no because you don't want to do it. That's fine. That's totally fine. You have the power and you have the right to say no when you don't want to do anything you don't want to do. You don't owe anyone else an explanation, because you know, when you give an explanation or try to make an excuse as to why you don't want to do something or you can't do something, you're opening up the door for that narcissistic person to say, oh, well, you can't come because you have your kids, bring your kids. Oh, well, you don't want to do this because you're tired, can't you take a nap later? Oh, well, you don't want to come out with me because, you know, you don't have the money, well, I'll pay for you. Well, you know what? if you don't give an explanation and you'd say, I'd love to help you, I'd love to do this with you, I can't, or I want to stop engaging with you on the phone or even in person because things are getting heated, or I don't like the direction the conversation's going, or I'm not comfortable, or I'm busy, I can't talk to you right now because I'm busy, I've got to get things done. If you're with someone that doesn't respect you, then you need to really pull back. You can say, I don't feel comfortable right now, I don't feel like you're respecting my decision, I don't feel like it's very nice of you to try and make me feel guilty because I can't stay on the phone and talk to you because I'm busy, or I can't do this thing that you want me to do because I'm too tired, or I don't have the energy or the time to do XYZ. Please stop. And it might end up being a situation where if there is repeated drama, if there is repeated bad feelings, you may have to distance yourself from that relationship and just recognize it as being a toxic relationship and let it go and move on. And that's totally fine. And sometimes that's easy to do and sometimes it's kind of hard to do. And even with family members in the past, I've had to do this, and this is really hard, but it can be done. And over time, as you practice setting boundaries, you will get better at it. My recommendation, my advice, is to start setting small boundaries with people you trust, with people you love. Tell them what you're doing. Tell them that you want to practice, because a lot of times for a lot of us, it's hard. It's hard to say no. It's hard just to say, no, I can't do that, and leave it at that without any lengthy explanation. Or it's hard to say, I need to get off the phone now. I need to leave. I need to stop talking to you. And just leave it at that. It's hard. So practice this skill. You'll get better at it as you practice, and understand that people that truly love you, that people that truly value you and want to see you healthy and happy will respect your boundaries and will help you as you start to set those boundaries. Practice with those people. Really practice it, and you will get better in time in doing this. Another point that I do want to bring up, and I read this book many years ago, and it was actually on how to be a more godly wife, so it's really not having too much to do with setting boundaries, but there was something that this author said in the book. She talked about understanding the concept of good, better, or best. And what she was talking about there was understanding that just because something might be good for you to do doesn't mean there's something better that you could be doing or should be doing. And it also doesn't mean that that is the very best thing for you to do. You need to think in terms of good, better, best when you make decisions, and you need to really think, what is best for you? What is it that you really need? What is it that you really want to do? The other thing that I do want to say about this is, if somebody is asking you for something, whether it be your time, your money, to do something, whatever the case might be, really answer slowly and take your time. I'm a person that really values keeping my word. That is so important to me, and it's a really big pet peeve in my life when people do not keep their word or their promises that they make to me. I cannot stand it. And I'm a person that really values that too, and I try to do that in all of my relationships. But one thing I've learned is that I'm very slow to say yes to anything. I will say, let me look at my calendar. I think I might be able to help you. Let me see, let me think about it, and I'll get back to you. And what I've learned is that if somebody really pressures me, I really need an answer now, I really need to know, it's really important to me. If they really pressure me, I'll say, you know what, I understand that you're in a bind, I understand that you need to know right away. I can't give you an answer right away, so I would recommend maybe that you make other arrangements and don't count on me. Because that way, you're not going to be bullied, or you're not going to feel like you have to be put on the spot to give an answer right away. Take your time and really consider what's not only going to be good for you, but what's going to be best for you, and what it is that you really need to do and what it is that you really want to do. And give your answer thoughtfully, and make sure when you give your answer that you can really carry out and carry through the thing that you're promising to do. Because that way you'll be known as a person that really keeps your word, and you'll be known as a person that really gives thoughtful consideration to the things that you find important and the things that you do in your life, and that's really important. So that's one thing that I would also say. The last thing I guess I want to say when it comes to setting boundaries and when it comes to really knowing what you need and what you want is that you need to recognize that you yourself are important, you're valuable, what you need, what you want matters. So I want you to pause this video right now and go look in the mirror and tell yourself you matter, you're valuable, and you're important. I really mean that. I want you to say these words out loud in the mirror. Say your name, Danielle. You matter, you're valuable, your needs, my needs are important to me. and what I want and what I need matters. Because the more you tell that to yourself, the more you ingrain that in your brain, the easier it will be for you to set your own personal boundaries. And you're going to find that you're going to be physically more healthy. You're going to find that you're going to be mentally and emotionally more healthy. You're going to end up feeling more peaceful. You're going to end up being more rested. You're going to end up being able to fit the things in your days that really matter to you, that are important to you. And you're going to fill your time and your days with people that love you, that care for you, that are healthy emotionally and mentally for you to have in your life. And that is so, so important. So you guys, that's all I have for you today. Let me know in the comments below, have you set boundaries in your life, and how has it improved your life, and how has it improved your relationships? I'd really love to know. If you haven't really yet started setting boundaries in your life, what are you going to do? What kind of takeaways from this video will help you start to do that? And how are you going to start to implement some boundaries in your life? Let me know. Also, let me know, are you a person that has a personal mission statement, and have you developed what your core values are? If you have, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching today. I will look forward to seeing you in my next video. And remember to make your everyday ordinary life extraordinary.